I'm very glad to have on the podcast with me here today three really qualified people.
I'm drinking alcohol, then I'm alcohol.
Everybody's like, oh, you study large language models.
Oh, on the stage.
Which I did not like. Welcome to another episode of Entrepreneurship Founders Club podcast. One of the questions which a lot of people have asked me, and I'm sure you guys have gotten it as well, is if I'm not from an IIT, will I get funding? If I'm not from an IIM, am I a good startup candidate? If I've not studied at an Ivy League school, is that something which will hurt me in my life? And today we're here to talk about that, right? I'm very glad to have on the podcast with me here today three really qualified people, right? I'm going to let them introduce themselves because it's impressive to hear each and every one of their journeys. Okay, so Ajinkya, I'm going to start with you. Who is Ajinkya and what is Ajinkya?
Well, Ajinkya is carbon and water mostly, as long as I'm not drinking alcohol. If I'm drinking alcohol, then I'm alcohol. But Ajinkya comes from a very humble background, middle class family, did IIT, Bombay, chemical engineering, BTech. Life changed after that. 10 years of corporate job and 4 best-selling horror thriller novels in specifically psychological horror and thriller. And was bored of that life and quit to pursue my startup journey in mental health. My company's name is called Zilopia, which comes from 2 words, zeal and utopia. So trying to make this world a better place one smile at a time.
That's amazing. So what exactly do you guys do at
Zilopia.
Zilopia. Yeah. What exactly do you guys do at Zilopia?
So 3 things. The problem in the current society, therapy is very expensive and still stigmatized. One therapy session will cost anywhere around 1,500 rupees to 2,000 rupees. And 10 sessions minimum you require to even see what kind of changes you have in yourself. And nobody is going to cash out in India 20,000 rupees for somebody to tell you what's wrong with you. Your parents do that every day, don't they? But that stigma exists in India. That therapy is
So 1 second, your prime competitor is everyone's parents.
Ooh, so and grandmothers and neighbors and Sharma ji ka beta, which I don't know where he exists.
I mean, you're an IIT Bombay graduate.
We still have Sharma ji ke beta.
Oh wow. Okay, we're gonna get a little bit more into that. But lovely to have you on the podcast, Ajinkya. Utkarsh, who is Utkarsh and what is Utkarsh?
Well, I'll not go back into the definition of the name again, but let me start with my quick background. So again, a middle class family coming from Jabalpur, MP. Got played by the book, went to Kota, did my 2 years of coaching there. Luckily got into IIT Bombay. There's a small quirky story around that. My cousin brother did his college selection from IIT Bombay, and this was almost 15 years back. And I had come with him when he was trying to select his college, and he came to IIT Bombay, and that's when I just told my parents that I'm going to come here. Somehow I manifested that, and I'm glad I did. Right after college, I got a great placement, started working for a corporate called ITC, and very quickly realized that was not my cup of tea. Moved to doing consulting, but startup was always something that appealed to me, and I joined an early stage startup before the seed round was even closed called .pay. Started working with them in everything and anything capacity. And one fine day, the board of .pay told the founders that, hey, there's this one idea that you're pursuing. We don't want you to put a lot of energy in that. You will get distracted. And they came to me and said that, hey, since our board is telling us that, I want you to just lead this product completely. So took up the realm of a product called Digital Showroom, built the entire business from scratch, scaled it to 9 million plus businesses.
Wow.
What we used to do at Digital Showroom was we used to help businesses go online. It was like Shopify for Indian SMB businesses.
Yeah.
But we had so many stores going online, we saw most of them not very active there. Biggest problem being marketing, biggest problem being that they can't get their word out in the market. So took a call, started my own venture called Zari, where we help businesses in their SEO. So hardcore dhanda guy, not as fancy as mental health maybe, but more into the business side of things.
Wow, those are two very impressive stories. Now we're going to change gears a bit and go a little non-IIT into the CA, CFA spectrum with Harsh. So who is Harsh and what is Harsh?
So let me give let's go rewind into the past. Harsh was a kid who did not know what he wanted to do. Like as a Gujarati family, you have limited options. You either do CA or engineering or maybe doctor. Now doctor is like you have to cut things which I did not like. Engineering, I felt it's too much efforts. So I thought, let's try CA. I did not know CA also required so much effort. I had my uncle who was already a chartered accountant and he was minting money. So I thought, let's mint some money for ourselves a little. Then I ventured into CA. Once I was into CA, I passed, but then I did not know what else to do. So after clearing was another struggle of finding out what to do. I joined a corporate job at NatWest Bank and then I switched to Deutsche. So 5 years of corporate experience and yet you don't know what to do. Then I was still figuring out, then I wanted to do something innovative. So then I joined a startup called Loyantra and I work here as a chief strategy officer.
Yeah. So guys, I know nobody's asked me, but I'm also going to introduce myself. I'm Devarsh Saraf. I am the founder of Loyantra. I was a lawyer who studied at Nalsar in Hyderabad. We like to say it's like the IITs of law. So it's India's second best law school. Spent 5 years there. Then worked at a boutique litigation firm in Bombay for a couple of years. Then happened to go to Columbia Law after that. I'd actually also started a blog while I was at the law firm. And that blog kind of went a little viral. The Indian Parliament relied upon it, an expert committee of Indian Parliament relied upon it while amending a law. It got a lot of traction in the US. I happened to be invited to Forbes Under 30, the summit, not the list, in Detroit because of what we were doing. So that kind of made me realize that my entire life I thought I wanted to work at a New York law firm. I'd seen Suits, like a lot of you guys have. I always wanted to be a Harvey Specter or a Mike Ross. When I actually got that job, it made me realize that I would probably be miserable there. And I came back and tried to start something of my own, and that's how Loyantra came about. We help create bespoke legal teams for clients, corporate clients, and that reduces their legal costs a lot. We also offer a lot of services for startups, like trademarks, incorporations, GSTN, all of your compliances. And we also run Loyantra Founders Club, right? Because I really believe in a strong startup community, and talking to impressive people like you would do a lot of people a lot of good, right? Any aspiring entrepreneur, any present entrepreneur could learn a lot from every other entrepreneur's journey. Well, thank you for joining me, and let's dive right into it, right? So the first thing that I'd love for you all to delve into is, what is it like studying at an IIT Bombay, and what is it like pursuing a CA CFA?
Sure, I'll pick this up. What most people perceive IITians are these geeks who would just be engrossed in their books. Reality is far from that. No one in IIT actually spends a lot of time studying, apart from, let's say, top 2-3% who really want to go into the core of things. But most folks who get into IITs, they carve out different paths for themselves. And that's not done by academic rigor. It's more to do with the kind of other things we do in college. And we do a lot of shit. So
I think you might want to define what other things, otherwise people might come to the impression of other things. That also happens, but...
Yeah, we have a very open campus. So true.
Define open.
Define open.
OPEN.
That's the spelling. But what do you mean when you say an open campus? For a lot of people who have not gone to universities with any sort of campus.
So openness comes from multiple things. One more attractive thing that people might know about is the fact that a lot of Indian colleges don't allow, let's say, girls to go into boys' hostels or boys to go into girls' hostel. IITs allow that. But that's the start of it. I mean, this is just an indication of how open the culture is. We have a very active LGBTQ community in campus, and a lot of professors, as well as especially the students community, they help students, other students, in pursuing other interests that they might have. So yeah.
Certainly. I think bang on. Most of us are not the geeks that we are thought of. Our entire semester year, we assume it going from dancing to cultural activities to sports to fighting with each other. There is a very popular thing that used to happen when we were in campus. It's called gali fight, where we used to just abuse each other, just for the heck of it, because we could.
Yeah.
And that was a very good bonding exercise, to be honest. I thought it couldn't be.
I lost my voice in that.
Same here. Same here. I think the openness in the institute kind of gives you an avenue to be yourself as much as possible.
Okay.
Of course, there are dark turns in every institute. IIT is no different to that as well. But more so from a non-academic standpoint, IIT does that much better than, I presume, other institutes. We get more from interacting with each other than any academic curriculum can.
Okay. So let me get this right. If I've understood correctly, what you all are saying is that in the IIT, barring your like absolute top rankers who are very geared towards getting your rank 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, most people take their academics as par for the course and they focus on other activities.
True.
I'd love to know a little bit more about these other activities and how that probably helps in shaping you, and if you know that such activities happen in other engineering institutions which are not IITs, or is this a little more prominent in an IIT?
I used to be the president of the dance club in IIT. I danced my butt off for 4 years.
Oh wow.
And pursued dancing there. We used to organize these larger than life dance shows. We used to organize about 7,000 people jam-packed in an auditorium.
Wow.
Every time the convocation hall's doors used to break, and that was kind of a accolade for us. If the door doesn't break, you're not doing it right, sister. So that was kind of the accolade. There is Mood Indigo, which everybody has heard of.
Yeah.
We used to be coordinators for that. So all these student-led activities teach you so much about managerial things, so much about working in cohesion, that you are not a single entity in the world. Things can't get done all by yourself. You can be the smartest man alive, the smartest woman alive, and you can still fail if you are unable to cohesively introduce yourself to a system. IIT teaches you to be cohesive, get your ego down, and work with everybody else. I think that's superb. I assume a lot of other colleges also do what we do, like Mood Indigo. There is Malar, there is Unmad. There are multiple such fests that people arrange, but Mood Indigo's scale is huge.
Yeah, I remember hearing about it in a law school. So, yeah.
So scale is great, but that just does not translate into all the things that get successful in IIT. Now, why IIT really brings in that culture is also because you have your student bodies and student clubs in every aspect of life that you can imagine. Right from any cultural activity, be it video editing, photography, dance, or be it in terms of professional career as well. So we have clubs in consulting, we have clubs for finance. So an engineering college where no one is talking about finance in their courses, finance communities are heavily active and they meet every day. So all of those communities not only exist, but they're empowered. And empowered because of the students being active there. And that is what sets us apart, sets the IITs apart. Other colleges, one thing which I personally feel is lacking in other colleges is the fact that while they have these clubs, they don't get as much attention as it gets in our campuses.
I think there should also be this self-drive. Like you need to drive these activities.
Yeah.
I've never seen a professor participate in any of these clubs. I've never seen it run by anybody from the academic body or any staff doing that. Everything is student-led, student initiative, students do everything.
That's actually, I was just going to ask you guys that do you all think that this is owing to the fact that IIT Bombay has a cream crop of students? Maybe not the best, but definitely everyone there is good or great.
Not the best.
I will have to
just
go
kidding.
into like whether the IIT JEE is the best, filtration system. But everyone who gets in is definitely very, very talented, very driven. I'm assuming, right? So, do you think that is the reason why these extracurriculars flourish the way they do?
It can be said, partly true. And as you rightly pointed out, JEE is not the best filter to say that, hey, whoever crosses JEE is the best chap. But it definitely helps to put in a lot of driven, smart people in a small community, small hostel, where you have rooms which only fit 2 beds, and you have to share it with another person.
Well,
You jam pack them in, and
unless
then,
you annoy your roommate outside, or unless your roommate is completely busy in all these activities.
True.
I never used to go to my
Exactly. So you
hostel
jam pack all the students in, and we would then do other things because we
Absolutely.
can't stay there.
Yeah, true. I never used to visit my room. Used to always have like night outs and club meetings and whatnot. So I'm certain that my roommate was very, very happy with the situation going on. I would say that IITs, yes, most definitely cream of the crop is a very bold statement there. I think the smartest people that I've met in my life are from IIT Bombay, and the dumbest people I've met in my life are also from IIT Bombay. So it's a dog eat dog world kind of a situation where you never know who you are meeting, and in the 3 hours of your examination during JEE, if you could crack it, you crack it. That does not by any means, I presume, does not by any means define your smartness or your worth.
Yeah.
Correct.
That's a very interesting perspective. Now coming to Harsh. So Harsh, you've done a CA and a CFA, 2 very intense professional qualifications, but which, from my understanding, quite unlike an IIT or a traditional law school or an institution, is a comparatively solo journey, right? It's something which you study for and you give the exams for. You have to be self-motivated. So I'd love to hear your experiences during that.
I partially agree. So these courses are more focused towards academics, where IIT people come together to a college. So you stay there, you live there, you sleep, you eat together, you do all these things together. So there's a group motivation.
True.
But here it's an institute where you don't have to actually go. You just have to go for exams. So that lacks. So it's mainly focused towards academics. You have certain subjects, you study for them, you pass, and you move ahead to the next level. As simple as that. But to pass that, you have to work your ass off. That is one thing that is required. Apart from that, you are good to go. The downside is that you don't get to learn other activities. Like you said, you headed the dance club
Absolutely.
at IIT. Like, I wouldn't get a chance to do that because there is no college as such where you can go and showcase your skills.
True.
So that is the sad part. But in terms of solo motivation, that is partially where I disagree. So on the second level of the CA, I kind of failed one group, but my peers passed. So when you see all your friends passing and you
It lights a
fail,
fire under your ass.
yes, वो 6 महीने जो बर्बाद हुए, that I have to give that same exam again, just a different paper, questions are different, exams the same. So that I was like, फाइनल फर्स्ट अटेम्प्ट में क्लियर करना है वरना हो गया, सीए से हाथ धोना है. एंड देन दैट मोटिवेटेड मी कि फाइनल एक ही देना. देन आई गेव द फाइनल वंस एंड देन आई क्लियर. आई लाइक हो गया अभी.
I think it's an interesting perspective on motivation because our motivations come from very different sources in life, right? Some people can find it motivating, others can entirely lose hope on this. And journeys of mental health are so complex and so disturbed for students in today's day and age that it makes me wonder if we should focus more on such activities, on getting to know what is the right source of inspiration or what is the right way of motivating people or giving you the help that you need at the certain point in time.
True. And I mean, I share a similar story. Even I, in my second year of college, failed a course. Now we can go into details of why your professor was beep. Let's just
Yeah, like giving you some context to what Utkarsh is saying. We are from chemical engineering department, which is notorious to fail students. If my professor is watching, I'm sorry, but it is what it is. Yeah, I mean,
Is there
in
any
the
particular reason why they're more inclined to fail students in chemistry?
You can-
sadism.
But yeah, I mean, 50% of my batch was failed in that particular exam, and
Wow.
again, unluckily, I was caught in that. And I used to be the person who was very enthusiastic about all the student activities back then. But this also lit a fire in me. And right after that incident, the next 4 semesters, I was rank 1 in my department. And
Wow, congratulations.
at the end of that 4th year, I was
And then
overall
he
rank.
did not pursue chemical
Chemical
engineering. So the love-hate relationship is quite evident.
Yeah, and I mean, it also shows that it is not just about getting through the JEE and being there in the college. You have
Holistic
to
development.
Yeah, you need development, and development does not mean academic development. It can mean all sort of things. Yeah.
That's interesting. Okay, so now that we've talked a little bit about what it's like going to an IIT, what it's like pursuing a CSEFA, I'd love to talk about one thing which a lot of people who don't get into these institutions think they really miss out on, which is the alumni and the networks, right? There is, in fact, the other day I was talking to a founder, a very successful founder who's raised a bunch of funding. He has got a bunch of app downloads, like a few million, doing very well for himself, and his company is doing great. And he was telling me, he was not from an IIT, and he said, you know, these IIT guys, their networks are so strong, they'll put it up in the alumni group that, oh, I'm starting this, and within 3 weeks, they've got like $2 million in funding. I wanted to know, as founders from IIT Bombay, which is probably one of the best IITs in the country, how much of that is true, and what is this alumni network really like?
Let me
I would.
Let me just
Sure.
put one small point there, that while yes, the alumni network helps, while yes, the network that we have inherently helps, but that bold statement of just putting out there that, hey, I'm starting up and I have $2 million in my pocket in just 3 weeks, that's not true. Everyone has to put in the hard work.
I mean, I would also like to know what are these groups and how can I get in touch with them.
Exactly.
Just asking for a friend.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You asked for me now.
Sure.
I think what Utkarsh said, bang on. Network groups extremely strong, but to what extent? Of course not. I think what people mistake here is your personalities. Not every IITian on those groups are going to get or reap the benefits out of it. I have seen non-IIT folks so good at networking. In fact, one of our friends who's not from IIT knows everyone from IIT Bombay
true.
and beyond, and she is not even an engineer, and she kind of, I don't think we know so many people.
I know. Shout out to Shreni over here. Yeah, I mean, I don't know any IIT friend of mine who knows more IITians than she does, and not just know, like deeply know them, connect with them.
But how did that
contact.
happen?
It happened because she was in close proximity of the campus. Her mother was a professor, staff member inside the campus. And that's how she started interacting. And she's in general a social person. So she started interacting with folks. And I think that's important, right? You need to have the personality. So what happened with her is I think when she was in her 6th or 7th standard, she started coming to campus to participate in the art exhibitions that we used to organize as students. And she started building connections from there. And she just enjoyed building those connections and enjoyed interacting with
Not
students.
just enjoyed, I think she took the first step. She took the first step. I was not in the art club. She knows me and she has been more in touch with me than any other IITian that I know.
True.
And that is something that brings out in your personality. You need to maintain the network. You can have a non-existing network or an existing network. If you don't maintain it, you're not going to reap the benefits out of it.
Correct. But this girl Srini that you're telling me about,
Yeah.
so her family was related, like had something
Proximity.
with the IIT. Proximity.
Yes.
What about somebody who really wants to network with IIT Bombay people, but does not have the benefit of that proximity? How do they go about that?
See, it's all about the hustle. You can always find opportunities. Uh, you can probably do an internship inside campus. A lot of professors offer that. You can connect with existing alumni or students there and start working with them. I have this one intern who has been working with me for almost 2 years now. He is from a town called Nanded. No affiliation to IIT Bombay as such. He just reached out to me on LinkedIn that he wanted to do something, and I saw the drive in him, and I gave him the opportunity. And now for the last 2 years, he has been working very actively with me. So it's all about your hustle. You can always find opportunities.
I think that's why, while that is true, I also believe in the fact that we come from a place of privilege, to be honest. IITians do have that network and we do leverage that network most of the times. For other people, it might seem like a clique, which is impenetrable, but there are possibilities of penetrating through the clique and understanding what is going on inside and reaching out to people as well. The probability of that, the math doesn't math here.
True.
I
mean, all the students who worked their ass off to get through JEE, of course, they did it for some reason, right? So we have that advantage.
Some students who work their ass off to get through JEE and some others who just got lucky there.
Oh.
I'm just going to state that. I already
Fair.
said that.
Fair point. Very fair.
In my life, if there's the biggest idiots that I've met are also from IIT Bombay. So there you go.
True.
In the iconic words of Dua Lipa, bitch, I said what I said.
Yeah, I mean, Nalsar is a much younger institution, but our alumni network has made Loyantra possible. So I know the power of alumni, and which is why I want to ask Harsh. Harsh, did you ever feel? First of all, I'm not aware if the CA, CFA, institutes really have an alumni network per se. And how does networking within these communities really work?
Okay, so it starts with post 12th when you give your entrance exam CPT. So you go to coaching classes, there you make friends, and when you start that coaching classes, you tend to stay with them till the finals, because that's the start. That's junior KG for CA, I would say. So that goes till finals. Then when you pass that, when you start your articleship, you go network with people you work with. So that advantage of working while you are in college, like you are 18, 19-year-old kid started working already under a professional. So that gives you a very big leverage. So your chartered accountant who you are doing your articleship under, that's your first touch point of networking. His partners again, and their connections. So it builds on, plus their clients. So that's articleship. Then again you go for CA final coaching. There you make a lot of network. Then CA Institute conducts this soft skills training program that extends for 15 days. Now 15 days seems like a lot, but it's just 6 hours. The rest of the days you are free. You don't have to go to work. So after that 6 hours, you chill out with 30 people. So that becomes a very strong bond that you carry yourself professionally when you graduate or when you pass CA finals. And the last I feel is library. CA Institute also has libraries and personal libraries you go to study nearby. So you'll always find community over there. So there you go, discuss doubts and you connect, and that stays for a long time. That kind of a network that chartered accountants build.
No IITian would say that they build their networks in libraries. So the stereotype needs to change. Why are we being considered geeks?
No, true, absolutely true. And I wanted to bring up this topic as well. How important would be your personality type, like extrovert, introvert, ambivert, in building networks? Because for you, it sounds like it's more difficult, right? So you need to be proactively outgoing in order to build networks.
No one's going to push you. No one's going to push you. If you don't go out, they'll be like, karne de isko. Jo karna hai, karne de.
For us, a senior would come drag you by the collar out of your hostel room and be like, you are good at this, you are going to represent our hostel and you are going to do this. And then you kind of feel like, I got bullied, but maybe he's right.
And if you're not talented, then you just have these newspapers lying across the hostels and which you have to help in creating props. Oh yeah, we have a great performing arts festival that we organize. Yeah, where we do the entire thing, right? I mean, the entire shenanigan. Setting up props, setting up the entire logistics.
It's a whole live movie set.
Exactly.
So 2.5 hours of full dramatics. Wow. combining 2-3 hostels together, and it's a competition. So it's not just we are doing it for fun, it's a competition. So 3 hostels, then 3 hostels, then 3, then 3. And you have to do everything from voiceovers to acting to music production to dancing to prop designing to set designing
to building props as well, and that's where the freshies come in, which are not talented. Luckily, Bhasme found me and we got into dance, but otherwise all the freshies are then asked to just start pasting newspapers together.
First year students you don't usually interact with so much, because then professors are on your back saying that, hey, are you ragging him, are you ragging him? So we don't interact with them so much. So usually you give the menial work like intern work, coffee leke aa type ka work to freshers. But if a fresher is talented, you just take them under your wing. We built a train.
Yeah.
We built a train inside a campus which was fully functional, had an engine, had a bogie piche, and was running on tracks, and had 8 dancers on top of it.
And where did this train go from and to?
Inside our campus itself, but inside the stage.
They'll make a train for a city that needs trains, but they'll only make it for inside their campus.
On the stage.
On the stage.
And almost 4 people height above.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. But one thing which we haven't touched upon is the kind of network that you bring in, Devarsh, especially because you have 2 different sets of network that you have got, which is one is a strong network in India from a great college within Indian law circles, and then also Columbia, which is an Ivy League college. So would love to know how these 2 networks are different and how you have been able to leverage them.
So I don't know how similar or dissimilar it is to the IIT experience, but my law school in Nalsar was a very small law school where at the time when I was studying, we had 120 people a batch, and that was it. So you kind of knew everyone, 4 years senior, 4 years junior, because it's a 5-year course. So those like 9 years, everyone is like family, right? Like across those 9 batches, everyone is like family. So they are like your first family. And your alumni, because it's a young college, and you don't really have too many like judges or people who've really, really made it. You have a lot of people doing great for themselves, but they're on the cusp of achieving greatness in the field. They're still approachable, and they're still very, very helpful. So that alumni is amazing. We used to have this thing in Nalsar called moot court competitions. Mm-hmm. It's like a competition where you have to go, you get a case and you argue it. It's a very law school thing. And in Nalsar, to be one of the yo kids, you had to be very good at mooting. Right, so I just did a bunch of moots. It also allowed for college to pay for a lot of my travels to different parts of the world. Wow. So I went to Buenos Aires, I went to Dusseldorf, and a lot of other places, thanks to mooting. But I could tap into my alumni network to take practice rounds for me, and busy lawyers would spare 2 hours of their time giving practice rounds for a fake case to law students, and that was very, very helpful from an alumni perspective. When I talk about Columbia Law, I think the alumni network there is very institution driven. So Columbia wants to have a lot more control over its alumni than Nalsar does. Like the Nalsar alumni initiatives are largely student driven. Former students, present students will make these committees, and that's a very Indian thing as well. But in the US, because the alumni is such a massive source for their financial, donations and endowments and everything, they really keep a close contact on the alumni. So your network is great, but it doesn't go too much beyond your batch.
It's a very interesting point, and I would love to understand how that really affects interpersonal relationship. If I have to, let's say, reach out to a fellow founder from IIT Bombay, let's say like Ajinkya over here, I can easily do that, and I have a lot more comfort in doing that. I don't know what level of comfort and what kind of impact institutional control over alumni network brings in. Is it better? Is it worse?
First of all, it's a lot harder to just
randomly reach out.
You have to randomly reach out. You don't have WhatsApp groups and communities, etc. You'll have that for your batch, but you will not have that across batches. Also because the students are from different countries, etc. So it's not as easy to organize and make collective efforts towards these things. So you'll have to go through the university for anything, and that's not exactly the easiest process. It does get
it's a longer route of communication.
It is a little bureaucratic, for sure. But that said, the kind of networking that your batch gives you is great, because there are people across all years. So I was sitting next to an Egyptian judge I had somebody who was a partner in a law firm. Like most of the people in my batch at Columbia Law would have been my boss if I was working under them in a law firm, right? And some small part of me took a lot of like sadistic pleasure in that. That I could call them by their first name and we were like peers. But in any other setting in the real world, they would have been my boss.
Very interesting.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was a great experience.
Okay. And how has that helped you in shaping up
Loyantra.
Loyantra?
Yeah. You know, don't worry, only on the Loyantra Founders Club podcast. You don't need to know the name. It has helped a lot because the perspectives that you get from lawyers across the world really changed the way you view the legal profession. Like, I was an Indian lawyer, trained in India, practicing in India. So, a lot of things which the legal profession does and which may not necessarily make all that much sense, but we do it because that's the way we've done things. I never questioned them. I always took them as sacrosanct. But the second I saw how, say for example in Latin America, some bar associations were organized, or how in the European countries they practiced law in Singapore or the US, it made me question our system and realize where it could be improved.
The efficacy.
The efficacy, and opportunities. It makes you see a lot more opportunities, which exist. And I think that, in many ways, did really help in clarifying the idea of Loyantra. And of course, like getting a good CFA who's,
Shout out.
Yeah, shout out to Harsh, has really helped.
Of course, he has. He studied so much.
In the library.
So
In the library.
we bring out complementary skill sets. So
Yeah.
I am a lot technically driven because of my academics, and he's more socially driven because of his network. So we bring out those complementary skill sets, and we make it work.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Speaking of that, I'd love to ask, like, there are so many successful startups, statistically, which are from IITs. And one of the reasons which I think people have cited for this is that it's much easier to find a co-founder from an IIT or your institution. So I want to ask you, did you all have experiences in your batch where you all found co-founders or reached out to, IIT Bombay alumni, juniors, batchmates? Did you all
I'm
have any?
about 10 years too late for that. I worked in corporates for 10 years, so it has kind of mellowed me down.
Okay.
But I'm sure back in college, I had this crazy idea of starting something like this. Somebody would have told, "Chal, let's karte hai,"
Yeah.
kind of attitude. As you get older and lose your touch from, I think, rest of your batchmates, everybody is doing their thing. It becomes harder and harder to find a person who is aligned with you in the same
Correct.
vision, same goal.
Yeah.
So sometimes the journey can be lonely, or it could be lonely by choice. I am a solopreneur, so one-man army.
The
But I
Justin
would-
Welsh way.
Yes.
But I would disagree on the point that you could have found a co-founder easily when you were in college. While yes, we have a lot of relationships, more active relationships then, but having a co-founder, as everyone says, is like having a marriage, right? You're gonna be with that person for 10 years. Now maybe you are too naive when you are in college to decide if you can spend your 10 years with that guy or not. But you are more mature now, maybe that's why you're not able to find that. But that stays true, right? I mean, even within campus, while we have smart people around, so the probability of finding a co-founder might increase, but it still has a lot other problem statement that you need to address. And one controversial point which I'll bring in is that when you're starting something up, you need complementary skill sets. Look at you and look at Harsh, right? You guys bring in complementary skill sets. If you are in that same chatterbox and if you find someone in that same chatterbox, it might not help at times. So you really need to, there are more variables that you need to consider when you're finding a co-founder than just your college.
I think you can specifically find two separate skill set in IIT Bombay. One from a dance club, one from an acting club. Let's say. One from a math club, one from a debating club. Let's say there's so much of madness going on inside the campus. I think the accessibility is better when you are in college.
True.
When you are out of it, kind of the accessibility is an issue.
What I was trying to get at is, say for example, there may be a brilliant student, like a truly gifted student in a local college in a smaller town of India. But it may be harder for that student to find a similar like-minded co-founder who is as brilliant in that college compared to if he were in an IIT? And is that true?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think too many cooks spoil the broth kind of situation happens in IIT. 10 people, 10 different opinions, very strong opinions. The room gets heated up, the ozone layer mein hole aa jata hai, everybody dies of cancer. That's kind of the arguments that we have. So when you are in a room with so many brilliant people, with so many brilliant opinions, you're never going to land on one single opinion, and you're going to walk out of the room saying that 5 hours went by and we did not make a decision. Somebody has to take the reins, grab the bull by the horn, make decisions, and it's very difficult if you are in a room where nobody can take the back seat, nobody wants to take the back seat. So you need to be able to find a person who is okay to let somebody be in the driving seat, and the probability, I'm not saying it's impossible to do that in IIT, but I'm saying the probability of doing that with somebody extremely smart is quite less. You need to find a person in a regular college also, if you are aligned with the vision of a person and they both have a relationship where they both can agree that you do this, you do that, and we both are going to drive this together.
Yeah.
Loss of control is something very problematic when it comes to high ego, high IQ.
Yeah. That's interesting. Also,
I have offended about 20 lakh people today.
we shall find out in the comment section.
It did not hit on me.
Yeah. By the way, guys, he is Ajinkya. I am Devarsh. Please do not get confused because we both are wearing suits. Yeah. So.
And if I have offended somebody, my name is Devarsh.
Yeah. With the lawyer in me, when Utkarsh was talking about co-founders, kind of sense that there was something there. And I'd love to know, is there something there? Is there a story there which you'd like to share?
Well, there is a story there. I don't know how much I want to share that, but a small gist of it, that I did have a co-founder
From
IIT Bombay.
Oh, wow.
And I mean, yeah, let me be politically correct and say that just things didn't work out. But a lot of problems that we discussed are true when you're working with a co-founder who is from, let's say, a similar thought space that you are in. And that's where I bring in the point of having complementary skill sets, having people who come from different walks of life, because you can get more exposure. So yeah, let me deflect your question with a more politically correct answer.
Yeah. No, so what you're saying is it's not necessarily as easy as it seems. There are
it's not.
downsides as well. And
Exactly.
it's great to know that perspective, because the mainstream perspective is, oh, you go to IIT, your life is sorted. Right? So
I am here. I have this.
Hey, your life is sorted. Come on.
I have this little guy in my head, back in my head, constantly screaming like my house is on fire. While I look very gleeful and cheery, there's this little guy like all the time.
No,
Again,
I mean,
if I've offended someone, my name is Devarsh.
no, I mean, in general, your professional life spans roughly 40 years, like plus minus whatever amount of time you want to put in. And your college is just the start of it. So it is the first badge you put on your shoulder. And of course, if you have a great badge, it helps. But that's just 4 years of your 10% of your entire professional life, right?
But you know how that impacts our social channels, right? On LinkedIn, you see everyone write IIT Bombay in their bio, and you write like ex McKinsey or ex BCG, and your entire personality type becomes that. Even if you're not that person, for example, I am not that person who would want to wear IIT Bombay as that badge, but you get respect, you get those connections, and if you're not using that, you're not leveraging it. So people say don't judge a book by its cover. Being an author, I know people judge a book by its cover. I know if I mess up the cover, nobody's going to buy my book. So I have to put like some nice image on the cover, nice graphics, which will instigate reaction in people. So people might have sour opinions about IITians, IIT Bombay people. They might love them, they might hate them, but it instigates a reaction, it instigates a response. You get them talking.
And again, even if you have that, you have to then take the conversation forward, right? They are talking fine, but you have to take it forward. So you have a badge on your shoulder, you spend the 10% of your professional life there getting that, but then you have to use it. And if you don't, then it's of no use. And that's where Ajink's point come in, that there are smartest people who are from IITs, there are dumbest people who are from IITs. And you can keep getting more badges in your life. If you don't have the college badge, you can get another badge. But you have to push yourself forward.
Yeah.
I think the definition of success really depends on person to person. So
Yeah.
that needs to be clarified first. Are you wishing to be in an elite college? Are you wishing to start up for the right reasons, or are you just mimicking somebody else's
Yeah.
journey?
Yeah.
That needs to be first and foremost sought out for you. If you're clear,
Absolutely.
you solve a lot of problems right there.
Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, Harsh, that brings me to, do you think that, being a CA, CFA, those badges, are something that you leverage or can leverage the way these boys are talking about their IIT Bombay badges?
One, it gives you immense respect amongst your cousins and family. To begin
Sharma
with.
ji ka beta.
Yes.
Respect or hate?
Both. Kind of both. But it also gives you that advantage. You get the first meeting. बंदे में कुछ है, इतना मेहनत किया है, he has given 5-6 years of his life, at least let him speak. उसको एक first meeting मिल जाता है. That is very important, and that's when your other skill sets come into picture. Yeah, you can't play CA, CFA all your life. It gets you your first job, second job, ठीक है. Then it comes to experience and how good you are at your work. Simple.
Yeah.
कर दिया 5-6 साल पढ़ाई कर लिया, it's fine. Move on. Do something better in life, like do something that is creating value. If you're not creating value, it's meaningless.
Absolutely. Plus you want money.
Yeah, plus I want money.
Yeah.
Doesn't
Who
everyone?
doesn't?
Doesn't everyone? Exactly. Some people who tell me that money is not everything. I'm like, okay. True.
मुझे दे दे.
मुझे coincidentally I said the same dialogue to my boss, my first boss ever, when he told me, you are a bachelor, you should sleep at office, you should work overtime, money to kya hai? I told him that I'm getting paid only for 9 to 5, why should I overtime kyun karu main? So he said, what is money? I said, sir, give me half your salary, I'm more than happy to sleep here. After that, never asked me to work overtime.
That's a real pro trip, like a life hack for sure.
Life hack.
Yeah. So guys, we've spoken a lot about IITs, CA, CFA, law schools. I'd love to know about the dark side of these highly elite academic institutions or qualifications, because I don't think that's spoken about as much as, the perceived good stuff and the perceived, basically everything that the coaching classes try and sell you, right? So who wants to take this first? Like, what do you think is the darkest side?
Okay, I'll take this one first.
Yeah.
So professional exams is like a tunnel. There are lights in between, but once you cross that, there is brightness. So that path you have to cross is the most difficult one. It can lead to burnouts. Example, CA हो गया, तो उसमें if you fail once, you lose your 6 months. You see your peers pass, your friends pass, but you are stayed behind. I have seen people who started with me. I have 5 years of experience. They are still struggling to clear the exam right now as we speak. They have their attempts in coming May, so they might be studying their asses off in the library. So once you get stuck, it's sometimes gets very difficult to just get out of it.
It's a vicious cycle.
Yes,
Yeah.
vicious cycle. And the sunk cost. Like someone would think, I have already spent so many years trying to achieve this. I'm so close, but yet so far.
True.
That is one of the dark side. It leads to burnout. Yeah, कितना failure एक इंसान झेल सकता है? Like 6 months, 6 months, it compiles to years and decades. Like I have read an article where the father cleared CA with his son or something like that.
Oh, wow.
Imagine.
Wow. While that could be an inspirational story to some, it definitely is not for the
Yes.
father, right?
Yeah, definitely not.
And it's not just about a series of failures, even one failure can topple you. I mean, imagine in institutes like IITs, you have a group of people who have always been successful.
The
Who always-
stars of their
the
city.
stars of
yeah.
their cities, not even schools, right?
Yeah.
And they enter this college which has all these stars compiled together. Of course, there would be
Cutthroat
setbacks. Yeah, cutthroat competition, there would be setbacks. But those failures, that is the first time they're tasting the
Yeah.
taste of failure, right? And if you can't handle that, that can destroy you. And personally, I have felt that. I've always been top of my school, top of my batch. I entered IIT. I was performing decently, but there were a couple of courses I did not like, let's say, and I flunked one course, and that was my first failure in general in life, and I really took it in a very hard way. It was very difficult for me to get over it. Luckily, I had a great community of friends. In fact, I had Ajinkya as well, who I spoke to back then, and I could get over that, and I could take that as a more positive influence for my life, that I would push myself towards more academic endeavors and get myself better. But that's not true for everyone, and a lot of people
Exactly. Unfortunately, not everyone gets the help that they need.
Yeah.
I think for us, it's very difficult to face failures. Most of us use defense mechanism as humor, like I do a lot if you have not realized.
Unfortunately, we're too used to winning when you're at these elite institutions, and that's
True.
not the best thing, especially in entrepreneurship. Right?
And we don't talk about mental health also a lot.
Yeah.
We don't speak about losing and taking a loss as well a lot. But we also don't talk about the right resources, the right reaching out channels, the right sense of community. If you do come across a person that you can really reach out to, that's good.
Correct.
But how many of us get that privilege?
So I feel when it comes to IIT, you like individually, most of the kids are geniuses in their circle. Now when you bring all the geniuses together,
You're just average.
Yes. Then
But
it
in the
becomes
larger
over-
scheme of
overwhelming.
life, aren't we all average? Some Tom, Dick and Harry will come who will always be better at something that you do. And I think since the beginning of time, you should be taught how to be average, but how to be good average. I think that's the most
That's a
important
very interesting
lesson
perspective,
that we need every single person to know, that at some point in time, at some speck in the universe, everything is just averages out. As a mathematician, as somebody who studied maths, you understand what an average means. It applies to you, me, you, everyone. And that's average. You can be an outlier somewhere, but how frequently is that going to happen? Plus this vicious cycle of you've done well in your life, you need to do better now. Up one, and where does this stop? Where does this hunger take you? At some point in time, you need to start defining what success means for you, what hunger means for you. You need to start telling yourself that, is this my goal, or am I mimicking somebody else? You definitely need to draw that line.
Ajinkya's point actually is very well covered in the book Outliers. If you follow that book, no one should go to IIT technically, because if you are a star, if you go to an average college, you'll be a star. But if you are a star and go into a college like IIT, you will not be. And if you are there, you have to embrace that failure. And a lot of students who go there can't. So that learning needs to be incorporated. All these colleges try to bring in a mental health workshops and mental health teams.
But that does not work.
But that doesn't
does
work.
it?
Exactly.
I mean, it's like cigarette ke box pe just put it causes you cancer, and then you'll be like awareness. Look how many people smoke cigarettes.
But then, if you are the smartest guy in every room, then how will you grow?
How will you learn also?
How will you learn?
True. And funny enough, we speak about mental health, we speak about outliers, we speak about being average, but we don't really speak about what personally we like or personally what we want. That is just non-existent for everyone.
Just keep running.
Just keep what to running to what? There should be a purpose. You should get somewhere.
Yes, true.
I mean, no offense to all those people who go to running in the morning to, I don't know, get where. But good for you.
And in fact, this is something which I noticed as well in Nalsar, and I think part of the problem is we are expected to choose what we want to do in life after the 12th grade, when we have not seen anything in life. And there were a lot of really smart kids who would clear their CLAT, which is like the JEE for law, get into Nalsar, but they just didn't really take to law the way they thought they would. And it's a 5-year course, right? Now, these guys are used to being toppers, geniuses, etc. But the standard of metric for success in a law school is you have to do the best international moots, you have to publish these research papers, you have to score well in exams, and then land a tier 1 law firm job, which is, one of 6, 7, 8 law firms in India. And if you don't get them, then you've gone below average.
You're not the Harvey Specters.
forget Harvey Specter's, you are probably not even the New York law firm scene. Right? That is how it's considered. And that is also very demotivating. And unfortunately, unlike what it sounds like IIT Bombay has, a lot of these smaller elite institutions and these newer ones like Nalsar do not have as much of an extracurricular, focus as IITs do.
True.
They're almost unilaterally focused on getting you that tier 1 job. And for somebody smart for whom law is not it can be immensely demotivating and a very crushing 5 years. A lot of them, thankfully, do go on and realize what it is they want to do. Like, I have one of my batchmates who, after completing her law degree from Nalsar, decided to go to Le Cordon Bleu, and she's doing brilliantly as a chef. So, I think...
I've heard of this story.
Yeah?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Tell your friend she, right?
Yeah.
She's done a great job.
Okay. I will. But I mean, like, not everyone does that, right? And for a lot of people, as Harsh said, the sunk cost is too high. So you kind of are putting yourself in an entire
It's like
lifestyle
this,
which you don't like.
that you are on this journey on a train and you have by mistake boarded the wrong train.
Yeah.
So now, do you get down at the next station? Do you finish the journey, then get down, then catch the right train?
Yeah.
Or chalti gaadi se kood jao. Like these are the options that you have usually. A lot of people are risk averse, so they would not take any of those options. They will just take that train to the destination. They will get down there. They will live their life like that.
Be miserable. But I think we all agree on this part, that this is one problem which elite institutions face. Let me bring in another point, which, especially with the context of startup founders, what disadvantage they bring in. Okay. Sorry. So I think we all agree on this part, that this success-driven behavior in elite students, what kind of negative impact it has on them. But one other topic, which I'm not sure what your opinion is on that, which especially relevant for startup founders from tier 1 colleges, is that when you're starting up, you need to give everything in it, right? You need to give your 100% to make it successful. But to do that, if you constantly think of having a safety net, then it becomes difficult for you to give your 100%. And problem with people coming from elite colleges is that you always have a safety net. Yeah. It's good as well, I'm not denying that, but it also brings in that disadvantage that you cannot give in your 100% at times. And you really need to train your mind and tell yourself consciously that you should not rely on your safety nets. You have to give your 100%.
Yeah,
that is a good perspective. I think that's a good school of thought, but it also a very privilege that we have, right?
True.
I ran a poll very recently on LinkedIn which asked, would you like to be an average student in IIT, or would you like to be a topper in an average college? Now, what would sound nice and what would look nice, let's just forget that. The poll said they wanted to be in IIT an average student. Bolne ke liye to this is nice, but when you face it actually in life, when you go through those challenges, you kind of have no space, no room to breathe.
Yeah.
We first of all don't understand our privilege better in IIT. After IIT, we start getting a taste of that privilege, how society treats more with respect, have the foot in the door first, etc., etc. That does not get you beyond a certain threshold. You know, like in corporates, you can be brown nosing and you can be a nice sycophant and oh boss, you look great today. Oh, I love your perspective on this problem. That gets you only to a certain level. After that, it is completely your drive. After that, it is fully how strong, I think I am not using the word correctly, how driven you are mentally to achieve that goal. If your mental juice just drains out, no matter what college, no matter what you are, who you are, you're just out.
Okay, if I may ask, assume you go back in time, would you have still gone to IIT Bombay given the information that you have currently?
Absolutely. 100% I would have. 100%. I've made friends for life. I have gone through life experiences that are, I don't think any other colleges can go through those life experiences.
Let me rephrase. Would you want to be an average student at an IIT, or would you want to be a star kid at average college.
That's what I think. IIT average student. I have accepted now that I am average at best in the larger scheme of things. It was difficult 3 years of this self-acceptance that you don't matter. You are just everybody in
One
the
amongst
crowd.
many.
One face in the crowd, and that was not okay with me.
Yeah.
But fortunately, I had dancing, so I kind of stood out and poked my face and said hi to people. So made my name there. But I say this always, that no matter where you are, you will get some privilege in life, wherever. IIT, non-IIT, any walks of life. You'll get some privilege. Sorry?
Sobo privilege.
Sobo privilege.
I am feeling unnecessarily attacked here. Guys, this is not a Sobo podcast. This is an IIT Bombay podcast. IIT Bombay elite law
True,
schools.
like IIT Bombay is the
Yes,
Sobo of colleges, I think.
Columbia.
But anyway, I think our privilege is existent. We just need to do something with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every badge on your shoulder counts, and these are badges that you have earned. You can keep earning more badges, but you have to keep pushing yourself, use them.
And practically, as sad as it sounds, we are badges. We are labels at the end of the day. We are nothing but labels to people. People give respect. People have put us on a pedestal. If you don't use it, then your life, the culmination of all the stress that you have gone through in life, all the friends that you have lost. I've lost many friends because they couldn't crack JEE. Like lost meaning death, lost. And I've lost many friends to depression. Mental health is a strong subject that we rarely talk about in such cases. We have created a system where we have created more losers than winners.
Yeah.
20 lakh people, 30 lakh people, 50 lakh people appear for the exam. How many get in? 1%, 2%? How many out of those 1%, 2% become successful? We don't know. 36% of the IITians did not find a job this placement season.
Well, that number has some exaggerations in it, so I won't delve into that. I mean, having said that, mental health awareness is more in US as compared to India. At least I would like to believe that. But if that's true, you might have seen some differences, Devarsh, as in compared to the topic that you're talking about. What were the students' perception in Columbia versus NALSA?
So the course that I did at Columbia Law School was the Masters in Law, the LLM, right, which was largely international students.
Not large language models.
No. I have to keep telling people this because every
You're
time
two
I say
engineers.
I did an LLM, after the AI boom, everybody's like, "Oh, you study large language models," and then I say no Masters in Law, and they're like, "Oh, okay, that's
You
not
should
useful."
just say yes.
Yeah. No, so when I did the course I did, the LLM, it had a lot of international students and a lot of them were looking to get New York law firm jobs. So, I mean, broadly, it was very similar to NALSA, except that instead of trying for an Indian tier 1, they were trying for a New York tier 1 law firm, like, as they call their big law. So, there was definitely a lot of similarities, regardless where in the world you are, if it's an elite educational institution. The one difference, though, that I did see is that they took their passions very seriously, which in India is just not encouraged. Like, for example, they had a Columbia Law School board game club, right? The engineering school students used to organize a poker night every Tuesday, right? The theatre kids would come together and do a parody of everything wrong in law school once a year. And those activities were taken very seriously. And I think that was a major outlet for a lot of people. It helped a lot of people cope with it. So that was one major difference. And secondly, I felt at Columbia Law, they weren't training you to be the best law firm associate. They were training you to be somebody who could be a managing partner of a law firm in the future. And that's one major difference between the US and India, where in India, they're training you to get that job. Because for most people in India, success in college is landing that placement. But in the US, it is being good at your field. And I wish that thinking penetrated through India somehow. And that actually leads me to my next question that I have for you all. is that what do you all think Indian educational institutions could do to improve, and help people on an entrepreneurship journey?
I think they should have better canteens so that we don't get diarrhea often. The cows in our campus refused to eat our food, and we used to eat
Not just food,
surprisingly mixed veg every Thursday, which had lentils from the last 4 days. So we all know what mixed veg means.
And the cows did not only just eat food, they also came into the rooms and ate books.
Yeah, true.
Is that
But-
what you all told your professors? Is that
There
what you
are
all told them?
videos of cows coming in,
We
attending
have
lectures.
two chaps sleeping on their beds, and there's a cow in between eating the books kept in front of them, and they are sleeping. So yeah, we
How
have videos of that.
exhausted must they have been?
Oh, it was crazy.
There are cows eating books between them,
So
and they didn't
we
wake
like
up.
to joke that IIT and cows also want education. They want to do better in life. But having said that, all jokes apart, I think what IIT academics trains you is, again, like just to be good at the subject that you have chosen. It's very academic.
True.
In the real world scenario, I have worked as a chemical engineer for 7 years. After that, I switched to managerial roles. But for the 7 years that I worked as a chemical engineer, you realize that a lot of smaller details that you focused on during your IIT exams don't really matter in the practical world. You need to work with several operating conditions that are probably going to go against you, probably showing you a middle finger randomly. Everything works and randomly something just messes up. So I think from that point of view, academically, whatever you're doing, just make it slightly more practical. And B, I think you also need to understand that students are going to flourish in multiple ways. So give them an opportunity to flourish in those multiple ways. Just textbook knowledge and coming to classes. Having said that, this is just academic curriculum. We learn all these other things by ourselves with all the clubs.
Because of the students that we have, the student bodies,
clubs, the activities that happens, and also having said that, these are funded by our college.
Yeah.
So it is at the end of the day funded, yes, of course, but there needs to be a drastic change in how you teach, the curriculum you have, and especially how you treat students. I think the treatment of students is not nice.
Yeah? Why would you say the treatment of students is not nice?
Bad.
Yeah. I'll go to a limb here and say that a lot of professors in campuses, there are many great professors. So
Yeah.
I appreciate those. For the most supportive guys, professors I've met are there, but then the worst are also there. And I'll go to a limb here and say that the mindset inside the IIT's professors is that they came from a background of being academically in top of their batches, going for masters and going for PhDs. They come from a very heavy academic background, and what we have felt as students is that the curriculum becomes too heavily academically focused, research oriented. Exactly. So
It's research oriented in their field of
exactly, and
right? It's heavily biased to what research they are doing.
Yeah.
And there are many professors who get visibly uncomfortable and have outrightly called it out when they see students pursuing other things because they want them to pursue research. Yeah, and we don't want to. Statistically, almost 80% of my batch is not doing chemical engineering. But the professors would get uncomfortable seeing students doing other things. I mean, look at the statistics. So that's one thing which definitely should change. I totally agree. The academic inclination should adapt to what the students really need today. Even for the 20% who are going into core, they should know what they really need and cater to the curriculum accordingly. If there's someone wants...
I went into core believing that I was going to be an extremely horrible chemical engineer, realizing that I was not. I was actually quite good at it. I was quite good at my field, and my grades said otherwise, and I was like, what? That's why I ended up doing it for 7 years, because I was actually really good at it. And I was made to believe for all the 4 years that I was in IIT, I was made to believe not even average. I was horrible at it. Because the way people used to look at me was like...
But one amazing initiative which another college from India has brought in is the startup program by BITS Pilani. BITS Pilani has started promoting a 1 year, call it a break or a sabbatical from their academic pursuit, so that people can pursue any entrepreneurial journey that they want to do that, and they would even help them with, let's say, office space kind of, register their companies in the address of the college and so on. So that is an amazing
We need
initiative.
more independent thinking.
True.
Yeah, I think that's where the entire crux of the material lies. Independent thinkers, if you're not creating, who are you creating then? IIT as a brand, if you want to separate yourselves from the rest of the group, it has to be through big thinkers, independent creators. If we talk about Silicon Valley, if we talk about Ivy Leagues, if they are creating founders that are more successful, IIT of course has founders that are successful, but if we balance both of them out, we always have that thing that holds us back, right? That you are breaking shattering some glass ceiling, or breaking some barriers, or doing something out of the normal. This should change.
True.
It should become that you're doing something regular. It should become that you're doing something normal. It takes out your stress, and then it makes you more comfortable to do this with your full heart.
And I mean, I think entrepreneurship is such a risky decision anyways, that if you don't have an ecosystem which supports you, it becomes that much harder. I remember when I used to walk into Columbia, there was a board on the left which had a sign, and all it said is, last year, Columbia founded startups, raised over $100 and something billion. And just that one poster gave everybody who walked by the sense that this college takes pride in their entrepreneurs.
Absolutely.
Right? And not only when they come back and donate a lot of money, but they take pride in all the entrepreneurs, including the ones who may have failed. And I think that is a perspective shift.
I think failure rate in entrepreneurship is much higher than in any other exams or anything like that. Like, if
it should also be appreciated.
Yes. Like, we know the stories of startups that have thrived, but there have been graveyards of startups that have died.
But one more thing is true, that institutes like IITs and top colleges in India do provide some ecosystem. We have Sign, which is a whole body setup and a whole office space setup for IIT incubated startups to run. Right? And we have a lot of institute funds, we have a lot of alumni funds and so on. But I have zero perspective on how the CA, CFA world operates for this kind of incubation.
So I am not very well averse with such incubations, but you have your ecosystems. Like, if you need any professional help regarding, you can reach out to any chartered accountant if you know them. It's via you can build connection.
But when you're trying to build a startup, there are a lot of variables that come in, and most colleges have these couple of standard incubations that they do. For example, most colleges have this ESL event which happens, which is an entrepreneurship event. Most colleges have some sort of either alumni fund or a college fund that helps startups.
When you're saying most colleges, do you mean most elite colleges?
I'm sorry, yes. I mean most elite colleges. And
you really made him check his privilege there.
Again offended 20 lakh.
So yes, all of these come kind of inbuilt for us, and we sometimes take it for granted, but they are amazing. I don't know, CA, despite being such a prestigious journey to take, do you guys have such kind of...
So that's the difference between college and an institute that is run by the parliament. So it comes...
Central.
Yes. So that's what something I would want that to change a bit. Like, give opportunities to not only academics, but overall development of a student. Let's say you got a very good platform to showcase your dance skills. You have incubators that promote entrepreneurship journeys. So that something can be improved in the CA curriculum. Like you said, you thought you were horrible at chemical engineering, but then when you went to the job, you turned out to be very well. Like, if I see as a chartered accountant curriculum, it's very diverse. I've studied law in chartered accountancy, but it was not my specialization. I've studied audit, I've studied taxation and other subjects. But when I go out in the real world, out of the 100% knowledge that I've gained, I use 5 to 10%. So maybe, again, to repeat, structure your curriculum in a way that can be actually used in the practical world as well.
Holistic development.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I think. Independent thinkers, holistic development, absolutely essential.
And I think it's not only professional courses, it should stem from your childhood. Like as a 16-year-old kid, how do I pick between science, arts or commerce? Like I have very limited information. What I
You
do
don't try it out,
Yes.
you would never know.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think that's why Indian systems work that way, where you go through this plethora of subjects together, and then you know that history, I don't want to do it.
But then that depends on the teacher also.
True, very true, very true. If your teacher sucks,
Also in the US,
don't like it.
by contrast, in your undergrad, you can change your major 2 years into your degree.
Yes.
Right? That is something unheard of in India.
Oh, in India you can only
Yeah.
if you are the top 1% of the top 1%.
And that too also in your first year's
First year.
first year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
This is changing specializations within engineering. Am
Yeah,
I
True,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm talking about if you wanted
Fully
to change
major
from
change.
if you wanted to like go from
Engineering
probably
to
pursuing
psychology.
yeah. Something of that sort.
For chartered accountancy, I can say you can do chartered accountancy even if you are graduated in science or arts. But you
For
need to have the
engin-
balls for it.
Yeah.
For engineers, we can say that we first do engineering and then figure out what to do. Very true. So we can change our field 4 years later. Also.
Look at me.
So we all win.
Look at you. I never did chemical engineering out of my college. Never. Like, and I was technically on paper good. I was ranked 2 in my department. So, yeah, but right out of college, I got into managerial roles and then into startup roles. And now I'm starting my own company, sorry. So, never did chemical engineering. And looking back, even I feel that way, that could I have changed my major and did something which was more meaningful and more connected to what I want to pursue.
Yeah.
I think it's important to discuss this fact that a right push in the right direction is important.
Yeah.
For IITians, you're constantly hearing praises. Professors bring you down sometimes, but you're constantly hearing praises from your circles, friends, families who are not from IIT, and constantly you're getting that ego boost and encouragement to do better things in life. It propels you.
Yeah.
If you are constantly hearing something which is not positive, you're hearing that, oh, you're not an IIT and you can't do it. You sucked at this, you sucked at that, you are bad at this, you're bad at that. You will ensure that you are bad at it. Neuroplasticity works like that.
Yes.
Zilopia is trying to solve that problem where we want people to be encouraged. We want that nice community to be there for each other. And that no matter which background you come from, encouragement is something.
Absolutely.
That cycle is something that everybody deserves.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think the last thing I'd like to say about what I wish Indian colleges would improve is networking. Like when I was at Columbia, they would bring down New York law firm partners, in-house counsels they would fly them down from even Europe sometimes. And they would network on a principal to principal level. Like there would not be like, oh, I am a partner, you are a student, I'm going to look down on you like that. That power distance wasn't there as much because the way Columbia used to hold itself was that we are letting you interact with our students. They're the best students. There are 800 people who want them. You can have access to them. So even these partners used to see it as a privilege. And I wish that our elite institutions in India did this. Because I think that is a game changer to just not only getting your first placement or getting your first job, but how you interact with such people for the rest of your life and especially for the first few years of your career.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
For us, we actually like do these, but all by ourselves.
Correct.
Okay.
There's no initiative taken from the institute per se.
Oh, they do. But they do it with the intent of research, right? So we would visit
I mean,
plants.
I
We would visit the top
No,
plants. But I don't want to visit those plants. So yeah.
Yeah, no, true. But I think from his point, the network kind of is not an initiative taken by our institutes.
True.
We take it through ESL. I have been invited to speak sometimes, but speaking forum is many to one.
Yeah.
That's not a nice way of
Correct.
interaction.
Correct.
If a student who is slightly introverted wants to ask me some question in a safe setting, forget about
Correct.
it. Cannot ask.
No.
Cannot even raise their hand.
They can. See, technically or
An introverted person.
they do. So at colleges, we do organize a couple of such interaction alumni. SARC is a great organization, great body, or student alumni relationship cell, which organizes such events and brings in alumni to interact with students. So we do that, but all of them is at the end student-led. And if we have more involvement of institutes in this, because institutes should be aware that the students are going in this so and so field, and if they can bring in that networking effect it's going to be a game changer. I love the way US institutes do this networking.
Actually, we need to make a big deal about it. We don't.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes such initiatives just pass by. You're sleeping in your room, you're probably playing a computer game, or you're watching a movie. Yeah, you're watching a movie. Something like that you're doing, and some important person, or let's say some person who has really great things to share with you has come, has gone by, sat alone in the room, waiting for people to come, nobody comes, goes. You know, you need to make a big deal about these things. You need to inculcate that language of entrepreneurship into the curriculum. You need to blend it in a way where we are no longer living in a world which is just job is enough for you. There are 20,000 influencers online who will tell you how you're doing things incorrectly. They will tell you what you're doing wrong. So we need to seriously start thinking about how we can start that thought process early on.
Absolutely. Now coming to the last bit of the podcast, and I would argue that this is something that I was really looking forward to. How do you think that a person not from an IIT, not from an elite law school, somebody who could not clear CA/CFA, how can they kind of reduce the disadvantage or the perceived disadvantage that they have by not being from one of these institutions or with that qualification?
You should take both again. It's too late for you.
I thought you were the founder of a mental health startup.
No, I'm just kidding. Just don't sue me. Again, for people who think what my name is Devarsh. My name is Utkarsh, right? Throwing you under the bus. I strongly believe that your past, your education system can propel you to a certain extent. If this is the timeline, IITians do have the privilege. Maybe they get to 30% or 60%. There are privileges inside IIT also. Some get only 20%, some get 70%, some get 90%. But then that is where your timeline is. If you are somebody who is not from this college, there are enough examples of successful people out there who are not from said institutes, who are not from elite institutes at all. You take what you have, you make something good out of it. You start from zero, but that does not necessarily mean that you are going to stay at zero. Right? Abhi kuch cheez ho gaya hai. It has happened, let it happen. Next steps, what you got to take is what you got to take.
So what are those next steps? That's what I want to know. Like, what are those next steps? Say, for example, if you're not in IIT Bombay, if you were in a local college in Bombay, not one of the best ones, how would you try and ensure that at the end of your graduation or come graduation time, you are not at a major disadvantage? Like, what actionable steps would you take?
The first step that I personally would recommend to take is get this out of your head that you are not from IIT. You lose the battle right there when you are cribbing about this. You lose the entire war right there when you think that, oh, but I have a disadvantage. You accept that there is a disadvantage, you take that disadvantage, you work twice as hard. ठीक है, अभी twice as hard work करना पड़ेगा तो करना पड़ेगा. You go out, you reach out to people, you set 1, 2, 3 things that you want to do, you want to achieve. Let's talk about entrepreneurship. You set a vision, you set what you want to achieve, you look for the right set of people who can enable you to achieve that. If they are biased, if they say that but you are not from elite college, not the right target audience, not the right people. You know, some people say that, make a product everybody loves, like TEDx videos. But my grandmother wouldn't want to watch TEDx videos, right? The product always has like a target audience. You can't sell a jetpack to a old uncle who would be like, can't even use his smartphone properly. You always have a target audience. If you have reached to a person who denies you the opportunity that you think you deserve, you reach to somebody else.
Bang on. I actually have an intern who's working with me from his first year of college. And in his first year itself, he had made 3 games on his own. He is passionate. He is not tied down by the fact that he does not have the tag. He wants to be a good developer. He is pushing himself hard. And when I met him, I was very inspired by the way he has developed himself over these years. And I brought him in, and he has been working with me, and it has been wonderful working with him. He has been a great contribution to the team. But B, even for himself, his personal development has been great. Among his peers, he is recognized now as someone who knows how shit works.
Utkarsh, if I may ask, so Does that mean that doing side projects, side hustles, doing something on the side, right, if really helps in kind of bridging this disadvantage gap?
I would say it's not just about side hustles, it's about hustling in what you want to do.
Okay.
If
In
you
general.
are if you are an engineer, let's say you are a chemical engineer, and if
Yeah.
you don't like chemical engineering, and if you're passionate about design, if you have to do a side hustle. But if you're passionate about chemical engineering, hustle in that.
Yeah.
You need to have that hustling attitude. As I mean, Bhasme pointed out, right? You have this one badge that it's IIT or Columbia or CA. But what's next? If you
Yeah.
hustle and bring in more badges, you compete with us, right? You
Right.
and a lot of people do. So don't get tagged on with one tag, which we got in the first 10% of our professional journey.
Don't pigeonhole yourself into
Yeah,
something.
you can do a lot of things, and a lot of people do get successful. who
Here's
keep
where
pursuing.
the attitude of successful people differs from the not so successful people is you have several life challenges, several life problems. What do you got to do with it? You can sit and complain. You can be like, woe is me, but somebody else will take that, will be like, okay,
Yeah.
fine, life has screwed me over.
Yeah.
Now I will screw over life. So that is something, attitude matters
Yeah,
a lot.
yeah.
I'm not denying the privilege that we have, but attitude does matter
Yeah.
a lot.
Completely agree. You are dealt with a set of cards. Now, if you play them right, maybe you are dealt with IIT, IIM, or CA, CFA. Maybe you are not. Are you gonna just fold and leave the table, or are you gonna play it right?
Play the game.
If you get one rejection, fine, knock on another door. There are thousands of doors, and given the digital age, you can reach out to anyone. Like I reached out to Devarsh on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Anyways, guys, I think that brings us to the end of this podcast. I have to say it was a pleasure speaking to you all, and thank you for spending so much time on a Saturday evening out here.
Pleasure.
And yes,
Pleasure is all ours.
For everybody out there, every aspiring entrepreneur, we at Loyantra have launched something called the Loyantra Founders Club, and we request you to apply for it if you want to be part of the community. Utkarsh and Ajinkya are part of this community, and we do have a lot of meetups in person, and we have a lot of knowledge sharing sessions. So do reach out, stay in touch, and be involved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.